Hi and welcome to this DCP Web Blender 2.8 Volumetric Lighting tutorial. So in today's tutorial we're going to focus on creating an animation sequence similar to this. So we'll leave it on repeat and we'll just see what's going on. We've got this textured floor and we've got this volumetric lighting, and then we've got this text that fades in, and we've got this smoke being emitted with these particles in the background. So we're going to create something similar to this. I've got a second version that looks like this, and the main difference is, apart from the color scheme, we've got this sort of shimmering on the floor. You can see like it looks like there's sort of mist moving across the floor, and the smoke's a bit different and the particles are a bit different, but in essence both of them are very similar. So to create this, we'll open up our web browser, and the first thing we need to do is go to this website, and we're going to download this material, this PBR material, this shiny material. So let's just go ahead and download this scuff material. We don't really need to do this, but I think it will just give it a little bit of a better look. So we drag that into here, and we're going to right click and extract this here, and we'll delete the text, or we'll delete the zip file. We've got this folder here, and we'll rename this folder to font material, and then we will go to this other website and we're going to download this. I'll put a link to this in the YouTube description as well. We'll click on this download maps, and we're going to download these maps here, and this will be a folder here called floor texture. So we'll open this up and let's just download. In fact, we only really need one of these, and we're going to download the OCC JPEG, this one here. We don't need all of them, so we download this one and we drag and drop this into here as well. We might come back and get some more of these, but I don't think we really need them. And the last thing we'll do is download the font. So we'll use the same font I usually use. I'll put a link to this in the YouTube description. We'll go to page 3, and on page 3 I'm going to download this font. So we'll click download, and we'll drag and drop that into the folder, and then we can close down the browser, and we'll right click and extract this font. We'll delete the zip file, and we'll rename this to font for now. We'll go in here and delete these two files. So we've got all the things that we need. I'm going to put a link to all of these in the YouTube description, so just go to these websites, download these, and just name your folders correctly so you've got some decent folder names here. We can close this down and open up Blender. And if you're not familiar with Blender, I suggest you look at the YouTube description, and inside there you're going to find a beginner's tutorial. I suggest you go through that first, get up to speed so you've got some basic understanding of Blender, and then maybe you can come back and look at this tutorial, because we're going to move through things a little bit fast here and not explain everything in detail, whereas in those beginner tutorials I put a lot of detail in there. So first of all, we'll delete this cube. We'll go to File, Save As, and we're in the right directory, so we're just going to call this Volumetric Lighting -01, and we'll save this. And we're going to press Shift A to insert a plane. So we've got a plane here now, and we'll press S to scale it, and we're going to scale it by 40. So we've got this big floor, you can think of it that way. And then we'll press number 7 to go into the top view, and we'll press Shift A to add some text, and then we'll press Tab to edit the text. We'll type in DCP Web and press Tab to go back into object mode. So this is very similar to the previous tutorials we've been doing, but we're going to combine a lot of those tutorials into this one. So we've got our text here, and we'll go to the object data, and we'll go to fonts and open up this folder. We'll go to our font folder here and select this font. That will change it to this font style here. We'll set the size to 3. So we're going to scale it up, and we want to go to object, set origin, geometry to origin. So that will move it to the center like this. And then we will go to the geometry settings here. We'll right click and scrub to the side here, so we get to this sort of angle. We'll click on the move tool here and just drag this up a little bit. We'll press R to rotate it on the X axis, so we press X and then 90, type in 90, and that will rotate the object around so it's forward facing like this. And then we'll set the extrusion to 0.1 1, 0.1. We'll press number 7 on our keyboard. That takes us to top view. Let's press Ctrl S to save it. We'll open up this drop down here and we'll see the text in here, and we're going to replicate it. So we'll press Shift and D, Shift D, and then hit the Enter key, and then we'll press Shift and D one more time and hit the Enter key. Now we can see there's 1, 2, 3 text objects. We'll grab this middle one and we'll drag it to the middle, and we'll drag the end one, this last one, and we'll drag it to the back here. We'll select the middle one, so select this middle text here, and we'll set the extrusion to 0.01, and we'll set the back one here to also 0.01 extrusion, so they'll be much thinner now. We can zoom in a bit closer, click on this middle text and drag it down to here, click on this back text and drag that as well back to here. So now we can see the text is sitting like this with these 3 layers. So let's click on the first text, or really we should name these, right? Let's name them properly. So this is text. So let's call this text 01, and then the middle text, we'll call it text. In fact, let's name this text. Let's call it 01 front text. Then it will sit right at the top here, 01 front text. This is the middle one, so we'll call this 02, and this is going to be the light text. So there's going to be some light emitting from this text. Let's just spell that quickly. And then the third one will be 03, and we'll call this smoke text. Okay, so we've got the 3 text objects here labeled correctly. So whenever we click on them, we know this is the front, we know that's the middle, and this will be the end. Front text, we'll select it, and we will go to Object, Convert to Mesh here. So we'll convert this to a mesh, this text, and then we'll press the Tab key to go into edit mode, and then we'll press A to select all of the vertices, and then we'll go to Mesh, Clean Up, and Remove Doubles. And then we'll press Tab again, and then we'll select the smoke text here at the back, so that's the one that's sitting right at the back. The other side, we'll press Tab on that one. In fact, we won't do that. We'll press Tab to go, make sure you're in object mode first. We'll go to Data, we'll go to Object, then Convert to Mesh as well. So we'll convert this to Mesh, then press Tab, then press the letter A to select all of the vertices, and we'll go to Mesh, and we'll also clean up any of the doubles in here. So we'll click this and remove doubles, and then press Tab again. We'll go back into object mode. So really all we've done is converted this front text and the back text into meshes and removed any of the doubles. That's basically what we've done. We'll click on the front text here, and we'll go to the material, and we'll just create a basic material, and we'll set it to black for now. And then we can go into render view, and we can see this is black text at the front. The this back one doesn't really need a material, and the middle one, the light text, we'll click on it, so that's the one that sits in the middle. We'll create a new material for that one, so click material here, make sure the light text is selected, we'll click new, and this one we'll set to emission, and we'll leave it as white for now. We can change that later. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is really save this, so let's save it, and we will click on this floor. In fact, yeah, let's click on the text first. So we'll select the front text here, we'll go to UV editing, we'll click there, and then we'll move our mouse cursor to this side here, and we'll press U on the keyboard, U for umbrella, and we'll do smart UV project, and we'll just click OK here, and that will unwrap the text onto this UV map here. Then we can go into shading, we'll click shading, and we can see our material is already here. We'll go to the desktop, so you want to navigate to your desktop, we'll click on this folder, and then inside here we download the font material, right? So we'll click that and go inside here, and we can see the material in here. I'm going to drag this up, and I'm going to drag this over to this side here. I'm only doing this so it's easy for you to see. Then we can zoom in a little bit, and we'll just rotate this text around. Let's just bring it down here somewhere, something like this. I'm going to click on this one here. It's called base material boosted. So we'll click that one, drag it in here, and we'll just click this color. You can see it's written base color here, and then you've got base color written here. So we'll just drag this to this base color here. Then we'll move down to this one, and this is the metallic. So we'll drag this one down. We'll move it to around here. We'll select this to non-color data. The only one that has color data is the base color. All the rest of these will have non-color data. We'll drag the color to the metallic here. Then we'll take the roughness. This is the roughness map. We'll drag that to the, we'll drag that to here, and then we'll select non-color data here. It's called roughness written here. So we'll drag that to the roughness here. Now you can start to see the shine and stuff and all that good stuff. Okay, then we'll take the, this is the normal, right? So this is the height map. So we'll drag this into here, and we'll press Shift A, and we want to go to vector and select bump here. And then we'll drag the color into the height here, and then we'll drag the normal into the normal here. And then we should start to see a few little bumps and little scratches and stuff come through, like here. And we'll invert this. Let's see, that should make it pop out now, right? So we want to we don't want to invert, we just want to reduce the strength down to something like this. That just gives us a little bit of texture there on this material. So that's this one done. Let's click on the floor. So we'll go to here and we can click on the plane. Now we've selected the plane here. We need to give that a material. So let's click on text. We'll click on material here. So the plane is selected here. We're going to click on material here, give it a new material, and we'll set the base color to black. And in here, what we let's we'll drag this down a little bit. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Something like this. And then what we'll do here is go back a folder, and we want to go to the floor texture here, and we'll take the asphalt texture here, and we'll set it to non-color data. And we also want to create a bump map for this, so Shift A, and we'll go to the vector bump, and we'll do the same thing here, color to height, and then normal to normal here. Then we can't kind of see this texture on the floor, right? Like this. And now we want to add some like water reflection, almost like puddles and stuff, kind of looking like that, right? So we press Shift A, and we want to insert a color ramp. So in the search here, we'll type search, we'll type in ramp, R-A-M-P, and we'll select color ramp. We'll put that here. We'll press Shift A, and we'll search for also noise. So we want to add a noise texture. So we've got noise texture here. The factor here will connect to this factor here, and then we'll connect the color to the roughness here. And you can see these little white patches, right? You can start to see these white patches. If we drag this, let's set the scale, let's scale it up to around 19, something like this. And the detail we can increase to around 5. And then we'll drag this black slider here across to something like this. The strength we need to bring down here, we need to bring this strength down, right? If I bring it all the way down, it looks like wet puddles now. Can you see? Almost looks like there's water reflection here. So we want to increase the strength a little bit so that we get a bit of graining. That's almost like texture bumps to this floor, like this. So roughly these are the settings. We can play around with these later to get them exactly right, but this will do for now. So hopefully you've got yours set up like this. I'll leave it here for a second. You can pause the video and set them like this exactly. And if I click on the text, you can see the settings here. You can pause it and just make sure your text is set up like this, similar to this. We'll go to File, Save. we'll go back to the layout. So click layout here. And now we're back in our layout view. And we want to go to we want to press number 7. No, we want to press number 1. So press number 1 on our keyboard, and that will take us to front view. So we're going to click on this light source and move it so that it sits pretty much, we want it in this center point here, right? But we want it to be down a bit more, so around here. And then we're going to click on the text and just drag it to the left. So we want to select all 3 of them, right? So press Ctrl Z to undo that. Click on this front text, then hold down the Shift key and click on all 3 of these. So you can move all 3 at the same time. You just want the light to be like in between, like this gap here, right? Something like this. It should be fine. In fact, we might not do that. Oh, okay, we'll leave it like that. We'll see what happens. We'll take this light source. We'll press Shift and let's click on the light source in here, right? This is the light. We'll press Shift D to duplicate it once, and Shift D again to duplicate it. Let's press Shift D again to duplicate it twice. So we've got 3 light sources now. The first one's going to stay in the middle. This one here, we're going to drag it and move it up to the left. And then this one here, we're going to drag it and move it up to the right temporarily. Then we'll press 0. In fact, what we'll do is we'll just Shift rotate. We can rotate and move the camera, or move our view so that we can see the text like this. Then we'll press Shift, we'll press Control Alt and 0. Control Alt 0 will move the camera to this particular view. So now the camera sees what we can see almost. We'll press N on our keyboard and we'll do lock camera here, and then we can click on the camera and we can drag the camera around. We can use our mouse wheel to zoom out a little bit, and we want to really rotate it around like this. So you can see that the perspective line in the back is cutting through this text, something like this. Something like this. We can probably get in a little bit closer. You can hold down the Control key and use the middle mouse wheel and drag backwards and forwards to zoom in and out, like on increments, right? Smaller increments. And just try and get your text positioned something like this. Something like this. We'll press Control S to save it. And with this light source over here, we're going to click on it and we're going to set this one to like a green color. So you can pick any colors you like here. We're going to set this middle one also to a green shade, but a slightly different green shade. And I think this one over here we're going to set to a blue shade. So we'll make it blue, maybe like a light blue. Maybe what we'll do is we'll make this one blue, and this one over here we'll make that one blue as well, but slightly different blue shades. So you've got green in the middle, blue and blue. So you can pick whatever colors you want. You can change them afterwards, so don't worry about it too much. Let's press F12 to render it, so we can kind of see what's going on. We've got blue over here, green here, we've got this green in the middle, and we've got the rest of our content here. So let's go to File, Save, and then we're going to go to the render settings here, and we'll turn on ambient inclusion, we'll turn on the bloom, we'll turn on subsurface scattering, and we'll turn on the screen space reflections. I'm not sure about that, we might actually leave that off, but we will turn on volumetrics here. So we've got all of these turned on: bloom, subsurface scattering, volumetrics. We'll turn on volumetric shadows as well. Turn those all on. Then we'll go to the world setting. We'll click world here, and we'll use nodes. Click use nodes, and then we'll go to the UV editing here. In fact, we'll go to shading. Go to shading here. We'll click on shading, and then over here in object we're going to select world. So instead of object, we'll select world here. We want to edit the node for the world. We'll click on the render settings here, so we see the render, and we'll click on the camera here so we can see what the camera sees. And then we'll click on this background and delete it, so hit the delete key. We'll press Shift A, and in the shader we're going to select volume scatter, and we'll drag that and connect it to the surface here, and then we'll reduce the density down. We'll set it to like 0.01. I think we need to connect it to the volume here, not the surface, to the volume here. Now you can kind of see what's going on. If we drag this down and zoom our camera in a little bit here with our mouse wheel, let's just shift click and move this here. Now you can play around with these settings and you can get different effects with this lighting, right? So you need to pick a sort of lighting. I want it to be quite powerful, something like this. And then we can click on the floor. So we click on this plane and then go back. We're looking at the world settings here in the node. So we want to go back to object. And then in this scale, you can move this to something where it's a little bit broken up, right? You don't want it to be too sort of rigid here, this sort of part here. And then we can zoom out a little bit. We'll zoom out a little bit. We'll click on this light source over here. We need to go back to the layout mode. So go back to layout and we drag this light source up a bit and across a bit so that we can see a bit more of this light here. And we do the same with this one. Let's just drag it to the side. Let's drag it up a little bit. The further up we bring it, the less light it's going to cast, right? And then that's not looking too bad. This light source in the background, we can just rotate around and bring it back a bit. And what you can do to play around with these settings, if you click on the camera here, this is what the camera sees, right? We need to actually be careful, because when you're zooming in and out like this, you're actually moving the camera. So you need to lock camera to view. You need to turn that off. Then you can zoom in and out, and you're zooming the viewport in and out then, yeah? Not the camera itself. So with that light source selected there, we can go to the object data, and then on the, should be on the y-axis, right? We can move it backwards and forwards, and we can move it back to where it's not too strong, something like around here. You can see how far back it is, right? Now you can just play around with the light settings. We'll go to File, Save, and we'll press F12, and we can see roughly what we're getting. So this is roughly what we see at the moment. We can see the light here. We've got a light source up here and out here off the camera view. Then we've got all of this shading and these effects hitting the floor here. So we're going to play around with this a little bit more and just try and tidy it up a little bit. We can move our camera slightly. So let's look at the camera. Really want this text to be down a little bit more. So let's shift the camera up. So we can do that by clicking on the camera here. And we want to move it on the Z axis. So we can bring the camera up a little bit. So this text is more towards the center. And we use the Y to move it out a little bit. Or move it back, the camera back a little bit. Then you can go into the shading settings again here. And you can go back to the world settings. And you can play around with this setting here to change how much power these lights have, right? Like the volume, the settings here, just to play around with them. You can have them quite dark and you can experiment now. Now's your time to experiment. I think we'll leave this quite high up, something like this. The density, this setting here will change how dense these lights, or how much density there is in this scene. So you can play around with these settings and get it to kind of what you want. We'll press F12 to render. This is kind of what I want it to be, quite misty and looking a bit alien-like planet, right? The floor's a bit looking a bit weird and everything's looking a bit strange, but that's what we want with this kind of, this sort of effect here. So that's the first part of this tutorial. We'll set up our scene. In the second part of this tutorial, we're going to actually add some smoke effects, and we'll add some particle effects, and we'll play around with the settings a bit more to tweak it. So this is the end of this tutorial, and join me in the second tutorial where we'll experiment a bit more. Like I said, we'll add the particles and we'll add the smoke effect. So if we just minimize this quickly, close this, and we'll look at this scene here, this video. We'll see the smoke appearing from the text here. We'll just let this loop a couple of times. So in the next tutorial, we will play around with the lighting. We can move the lighting slightly, and we can play around with this text a little bit, have it moving towards the camera, and add this smoke sort of effect coming at the end, and we'll add these particles as well. So we'll do that in the next tutorial. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP Web tutorial.